Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Coronavirus in the Independent Retailer podcast. I'm Bob Nagan. I'm your host. And the first thing I want to say is congratulations. You made it through another day. This will end, and every day you make it through, you are one day closer to having your store open, to running those wonderful promotions, to having your team back together, to seeing your customers and having your customers see you. You know, all those beautiful things that you love about being a retailer. So congratulations, every day. And let's just acknowledge that some days are harder than others. And let's just acknowledge it and be forgiving of yourself. Give yourself the space to have a bad day or bad moment or, a bad hour. It's just this, as I've said before, this shit is unprecedented. So just remember, we're just trying to keep moving forward, Make it to the end. So, let's talk about yesterday. We talked about communicating with your team. We went through the statistics from our entirely unscientific poll that we did on our WhizBang Retailers Facebook group. By the way, if you're a retailer or someone who cares about the success of independent brick and mortar retailers and you're not a member of WhizBang Retailers, our Facebook community, I'd encourage you to go over there. I'd also encourage you to sign up for our tip of the week by going to whizbangtraining.com. I don't know, I got distracted there. But yesterday we talked about that poll that was on the WhizBang Retailers page. And lots and lots of you have laid off your entire teams, have laid off most of your team, and you're just working with a skeleton crew. So yesterday we talked about the importance of communicating. This whole idea of you want to keep your team intact as best you can. So when this is done, you are positioned to be better than ever, to make up all this lost ground, and not only make it up, but, to really use this to propel you to becoming a much better, much wiser, much smarter, much more customer-focused business than you were in the beginning. So yesterday we talked about communicating, staying with your people, really being sensitive to how they're feeling and who needs what, and being a great leader. But today I want to talk about really using your team to be more effective, both now and for the future. The post-pandemic, we should call it that, honey. PP. You have AD, BC, PP, post-pandemic world that we're going to live in soon. And here's what I'd like you to think about. There's Susan and I have created a concept called the ADD model. And ADD stands for Ask, Discuss, Decide. And really, it's a way to look at using your team to essentially become a mastermind. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we feel we need to have all the answers, that we need to be the smartest people in the room, and that we need to come up with the answer and share it with our team and let them execute. Sort of, we're the general, they're the soldiers. I'm going to make the decision. You go, go, go. But I think that's a model from the past. Of course you're in charge. Of course you're the leader. You're an entrepreneur. But your job isn't to come up with the answers. Your job is to recognize the answers. And this is why education is so important. If you have the Retail Mastery System, I hope that you're spending some time with it every day. Ideas, inspirations, growing. But that's not what I want to talk about here. What I want to talk about is ADD with your team. So ADD, ask, discuss, decide. Use your team to help you create the answers to all or any of the problems that you're experiencing. So let's just use one. Let's just ADD, how to generate more cash. A week ago, the ADD would have been how to generate more sales. Now it's how to generate more cash because there's going to be lots of options around cash with all the money that's being flooded into the economy. But so ADD, ask. So let's just say that you're doing what we suggested yesterday and you have a weekly or a daily or a weekly check-in with your team. Here at WhizBang Training, we do a daily check-in via High Five. You can use Zoom. You can use Google Hangouts. Or do we use Google Hangouts, honey?
We use Google Hangouts for our team meetings.
We use Google Hangouts. I'm sorry. I just get on and listen. And anyway, but you use Google Hangouts and, there's a check-in, but then you ask your team, anybody who participates, who is there, say, look, you guys are super smart. Tell us, how are we going to generate some more cash? That's the ask. Ask them to help you solve a problem. Ask them to help you identify an opportunity. And then you discuss it. So you could discuss it during that check-in. You could say, we're going to discuss it for the next 3 days. Here's the deal. We're going to have our private Facebook group, whether you use Slack or Trello, however your team communicates, say, we're going to discuss ideas to generate more cash for the next 2 days. You can have a Google Doc. Here's how we're going to do it. And then your job as the leader is to lead that discussion, keep that discussion alive. When somebody comes on and puts on a good comment, you go, great idea, great idea. Have you thought about this? But you see what you're doing? You're creating a mastermind out of your team. You don't have to bear all of the burden. Let them help you. And then the D, so that's the ask, discuss, and then the D is decide. So at the end of the 3 days, at the end of whatever that time frame that you've chosen for a discussion, you say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And then you do it. And then it's rinse and repeat. If it works, you double down. If it doesn't work, you go back and you try something else. Or maybe it worked, but not as well as you had hoped it would work, so you tweak it and try something else. But the whole idea of ADD is a recognition that your team has tremendous experience and wisdom and creativity, and that they're on your team and you're asking them to help. And here's what you're going to find. You're going to find that some people are going to be amazing. Some people aren't going to participate like you had hoped. But if that's the case, I would like you to go back to yesterday's podcast and remember, Q tip, quit taking it personally. So if you do an ADD exercise with your team, many of whom are laid off, don't be angry or upset if they're not participating the way that you had hoped. Don't take it personally. Some people are very, very transactional when it comes to work. They like to work, they're good at work, but if they're not being paid for work, they're not going to do the work. And that is their right. That is their right. So don't take it personally. Some people are going to jump in and love this whole thing. But that whole idea of tapping into your team to help you solve problems and spot opportunities, I think is a really, really powerful model for some of you. And here are some other things that you can do. You can ADD how to reduce expenses. You could ADD how to keep morale up. You can ADD how to position yourself for, this post-pandemic. What do you think of that, Joe? You have A, D, B, C. I'm thinking PP, post-pandemic.
That's
Joe's not buying into it. I put him on the spot, too. I love having a little home office here. By the way, I want to give a giant shout out to Joe and Sam. If you've noticed, every day the production value gets higher. It gets easier for you to watch. And it's because of Joe and Sam and the way that they're, the passion and professionalism they're putting into the production here. So, but how do you position yourself post-pandemic? So all of these are ways that you can tap into the wisdom, the creativity, the knowledge, the experience of your team. And I would encourage you to recognize that you're going to People are going to respond. People are going to respond, and it's going to be incredibly grateful. And the thing that it does to help you is when you treat your team that way, they become more emotionally connected to you. And there will be days there, I'm sure there has already been days when you need your team to pick you up, to pull you along, to support you, to pick up your slack. So that's it. ADD, ask, discuss, decide. Put a little time frame on the discuss, but recognize that you have tremendous bandwidth in the brains of your people. So that is it for today. Again, congratulations. You made it another day. This is, one foot in front of the other. The other thing that I wanted to say is, boy, oh boy, it looks like, at least here in the United States, the federal government is going to, $2 trillion is being pumped into the economy. A lot of it is earmarked for small businesses like you. States have programs. We're going to do everything we can to keep you posted on those programs. But when we talk about, ways to generate cash, ways to survive, ways to advance, I would encourage you to be very, very, very proactive about learning what is out there for you, learning what's available, applying as quickly as possible, doing everything you can to tap into those resources that you've been paying into, right? You're an entrepreneur. You've been paying taxes for a long time. Unemployment tax, payroll tax, the taxes that you've made on the profits. Now is the time for you to get back from your government. So anyway, that's it for today. I'm Bob Nagan. Just hang tight, stay grateful, keep moving forward, and we'll see you tomorrow.